Hi, and welcome to the Barmy Army Isoation Podcast number 6. I'm Deborah, and I'm joined this evening by Dave and by Ian. Fellas, nice to see you. How are you doing, Dave?
Not too bad today, actually. Just lounging about, playing video games, so it's all good.
Ian, how's it going for you at the moment?
Yeah, all right. I've got a couple of days off work, so just enjoying some relaxing time. I know everybody's, relaxing around, but unfortunately, work has been a bit stressful. So glad to have a few days off. So enjoying them.
Nice of you to join us then. If things have been a bit tense recently, only the two of you joining this evening, so we're going to make up for the loss of the fourth person who's normally on here. And tonight we're going to talk about the games against Brighton, both this season and last. So we've got one game from last season to look at, 3 from this. And fortunately, both of you guys have been to all 4 games against them. So you can tell me all about it because I didn't get to the most recent game. But I actually don't know whether that wasn't such a bad thing at all. So let's start at the beginning. Brighton, our first FA Cup opponents. Last year, one of the biggest games in our history, I suppose. What do you remember about that game, Ian?
The one thing that keeps coming back to my mind, well, the 2 things is Shivy's save from the penalty that Amy gave away at a time that Brighton were starting to get back into that tie, because we were only 1-0 up at the time. So that was huge. And then obviously Lauren's second goal, which she did pretty much on her own. She takes the ball down in towards the corner. You think she's going into the corner just to waste some time. A couple of moves later, she's in the box and she puts it home. That's probably one of the best goals we scored last season was that goal. So they're the 2 things that stand out from the FA Cup game last season.
Yeah, I think you're right in as much as I thought she was just killing time. And I almost wasn't encouraging her to do anything. We just thought she's taking the ball into the corner. Dave, your memories of that match?
Yeah, if I remember rightly, the first half seemed pretty... I think cancelled each other out a bit. And when it got to half-time, I was a bit worried thinking... maybe Brighton can step it up a little bit because they had the WSL team and we were still a championship team, and the second half will be much difficult. But I want to be, obviously, LJ got the first goal. I think it was Jess who crossed it in for her. And then, like Ian said, Amy T just, I can't remember if she brought it down, but she brought down a player, and then penalty. And Shivy, probably the best save she's made of the season. I was fortunate enough, I had my camera and I've got a quick footage of it, and it's just, I'll watch it back sometimes thinking it is a brilliant penalty save. If it was David De Gea who made it, people would be screaming about it. Well, as for the second LJ goal, don't get me wrong, amazing goal, and she did brilliantly. But if I was Hope Powell, I'd be screaming at my team. That was some of the worst defending I've ever seen. She picks the ball up halfway line, dribbles it a little bit, and the players just aren't paying attention, backing off her, and she goes into the corner, and she just gets through 3 players, then round another and just puts it in. It's honestly some of the worst defending you'll ever see, and I feel if that goal was scored against us, you'd be screaming at the team. But you can't take that away from Lauren. She did what she had to do, and she obviously, and what she did as well. She wouldn't play in the first half. She was brought on in the second half, so she changed the game completely for us. And I think that's the game where Lauren showed what she's really about. I think where she shows you that she's a vital part of this team, because before that, for me, I thought she was a great player. She had some mistakes in her, but she was that young player who in and out maybe, and just bred her in a bit. But after that, you thought she's a vital part of this team.
Just to pick up on something you said, that penalty save at 1-0. Let's talk hypothetically. Brighton score that penalty. Do we still go on and win that game, Dave?
I don't think we would have, because I think Brighton have been up for it then. And like I said about the second goal, the defending, and they just backed off and they thought, oh, they're not going to score, so I don't know what they were thinking really, but I do think their momentum would have been up if they'd scored that, and I really don't think we'd have gone through.
In terms of them as a team, I remember, I think before the game, I went to go and get a drink, and I was queuing up, or I was just putting a lid on my cup, and there was some local fans, Brighton fans, also there, and one of them said to the other, "What do you think about today?" And the other said, "Well, we're not great. They are. They're probably favourites." And I remember thinking that was a pretty strange thing to hear at the time. Yes, we were doing well in the Championship, but in terms of a barometer against Super League teams, we didn't yet know. Were you disappointed with Brighton that day, Ian?
Yeah, I would say I was disappointed with Brighton. They're a hope power team, so you expect them to be well drilled. You saw what she did with the England side when she managed England. Well drilled team, good defensively, good getting forward as well. But as Dave said, the first half wasn't a lot of quality in it at all from either side. And I would agree with Dave as well that if that penalty had gone in, I think we'd go on and lose that. Because I don't think at the time the girls had, we barely been behind at all season. The only game we'd really been behind was obviously the Durham game just before Christmas, which we had lost. But obviously then we bounced back against Everton. But Brighton are a team that you can blow hot and cold. They're on their day. They're a really hard team to play against. Just ask Chelsea this season. They gave Chelsea a really good game down at the People's Pension earlier this season. And that's something, if we're all honest, we probably didn't expect that from the way Brighton have been playing all season. So, yes, they disappointed me because, yes, at the time they were the WSL side. They do have some good players in their team. And at the end of the day, our girls have still only been together, 8 months, if that, by then? So, they should have gone in as favourites and they should have been the ones going through. So, yeah, I was disappointed in Brighton last season, yeah.
Mark makes the point. We had a good record against some WSL teams last season, most notably Everton, Brighton, West Ham. But Nat's picking up on this point that the Super League is not special. We were told it would be a massive step up, so we always expect the WSL teams to do better. Last season, as a Championship team, yes, we know we were punching above our weight. Where do you think, and I'm using that game against Brighton as a barometer, where would we have finished in the Super League last year had we been in that division? What do you think, David?
I think being our first season, we're probably midway because I think we're playing Arsenal home and away and the Chelsea's home and away, City home and away. We might not necessarily have won them games or performed like we did. So I think there'd have been a bit of heads being down, really, because they're getting beat more often. You got to think last season, the way we were winning, the team thought they were going to win every game and score every shot because that's what was happening. So, the confidence was up where I think if you get beat a few times, maybe two in a row, 3 in a row, obviously the confidence will be knocked. So I think further down. But yeah, what Nat said about the Super League, I think these great teams in there, the top 3 teams, they're just on another level. I think we've been to get 4th. I don't think we've played brilliantly, but it just shows you what the rest of the teams are like. And maybe the bottom 4 of that league are Championship material. Really, they're not really Super League material. If you compare it to the men's game, the Premier League, and the Championship, it's just chalk and cheese. You'd worry that unless the team start getting better and recruiting better, having better coaches, you're not going to get the numbers that they're predicting that they want to get.
Yeah, Dave, your pitch is frozen, but we still got your audio, thankfully. So we're just going to carry on and hope you come back to us.
Do you want me to leave and come back? Would that help?
It's up to you. It's up to you. We've still got your audio, but if you want us to see your face, by all means, you can drop that while I go to Ian. Ian, I guess the other thing as well, if we consider last season, had we gone straight into the Super League, yes, we'd have probably had a different squad. But it was easier for us to play, dare I say, the more run-of-the-mill, the easier teams. Let's see if Dave's back with us. and then only have those big games. Good to see you back, Dave. Only have those big games every now and again. So we were more prepared for them. We were more ready. What's your thoughts? Obviously, I've read Nat's comments. Dave's spoken. I know my own thoughts I've voiced a few times about the standard of the Super League in terms of where we matched up last year and where we would have finished had we been there.
The one thing I'll say is if you look at the WSL last season, you had Yeovil in it. Bristol didn't have a great season last year. So I would think we would have finished above Yeovil, would have finished above Bristol. Everton had a really bad season last season as well. They couldn't put a win, they couldn't put a run together at all. So my feeling is we probably could have been around Liverpool, 5th, 6th. The games against Reading would have been obviously difficult. I think we could have probably beaten Liverpool home and away. We'd already played them obviously in the Conti Cup at the first game of the season, so we knew what Liverpool would bring to us. But you're right in saying that because we only play Super League teams every now and then, I think it's more of an occasion, so the girls are more up for it. Whereas not saying the girls aren't up for it week in, week out this season, but there was a target there. The WSL team, show what we can do. Go and prove yourselves tonight, type of thing. So when we did play Liverpool, when we did play Everton, when we played
West Ham,
West Ham gave us a really good game up at the LSV. Could have easily been a 1-1 and gone to extra time if they had some good opportunities in that second half, West Ham. So yeah, if we'd been in the WSL last season, I would have said 6th, probably around 6th, 7th. I think we would have finished above Yeovil. We would have finished above Brighton, and I think we would have finished above Everton the way those teams played last season.
I'm going to throw in a random question now because something's just come to me, and I'm going to stick you both on the spot. Thinking about, I'm just going to step away from the Brighton games. Thinking about the standard of the Super League, which championship teams last year do you think would have held their own in the Super League as well last year? Dave.
God, you've put me right on the spot.
Ian, you got some thinking time.
The trouble is, I'm thinking of this season, so obviously, because the teams have changed completely. If you look at someone like Villa, they're just opposite for what they were. Who would? That's a good question.
Anybody else who's watching as well? Any thoughts on that? Because my suspicion, I'm going to jump in there. I think Durham are the ones that I think would they, because the other teams I think are Spurs and Durham. I think Charlton fell away as the season went on. Nat's saying Spurs, but they've changed again. But
I think you may be right with Durham.
Sorry, Dave, go on.
I think you might be right with Durham, but it's only because obviously we got beat by them. They were a bit of a rougher team, especially the game at LSV. But I saw them last season as well when we went up there to watch Sheffield play when the girls were on loan there. And Sheffield weren't the team they are now. And I thought they took care of them easily. So, I mean, against us, yeah, they looked like they could cope. But when they played Sheffield, it didn't look like they would be able to.
Ian?
In last season's guys, I don't think any of the other sides could have.
What a cop out.
No, it's just, Spurs last season, when they played WSL opposition, they got quite well and truly beaten. So, Spurs who came out with us, are, as Dave said, they're a completely different side this season. Like Aston Villa in the Championship are a completely different side this season. Durham gave us a go, but I'm going to be honest with you, the majority of the teams in the WSL probably would have been able to break them down eventually. That's one thing we didn't do last season, is break down Durham. Really, we only got one at home against them in the Conti Cup. otherwise, we got spanked away, and it wasn't a brilliant home game either. So,
Ian, I'm just going to jump in with this. Somebody else thinks you've sat on the fence there.
Okay, then. If I had to pick a team from last season, it would have to be Durham.
Okay. Durham more than Spurs, even though Spurs came up.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Can I go back and say Spurs? I didn't think of Spurs because obviously they came up with us, so I didn't think that. But yeah, Spurs would. I think they'd have been about the same we were.
Yeah, I think we can all agree if there is anybody other than us, it would have been Spurs or Durham lower down. Mark's made the point that Villa had a good run towards the end of the season, so maybe had they played that way. Nat's obviously giving a lot of love to Sheffield. So that's always been my issue, I guess, with some of the games we had last year against the Super League teams, that the level of the Super League actually wasn't that far above where we were. Let's put last season to bed. Looking at this season, first game up against Brighton at our place. Probably our biggest win of the season, 4-0. And probably our most comfortable, easiest afternoon that we've had all season. Would you say, Dave?
Yeah, I think as well that game we were brilliant. But the reason we were brilliant, it showed us what Hansen the best Hansen we've got and the best Leah we've got when they played at their best and both at the same time. It's just unreal. I couldn't pick out the two who was the best player that game. I don't think but it was just unreal. I think Lauren got the first goal, and that was all work from Leah. Played it into her, and she got a tap in. Then the second goal was Galton after Zellum, tight angle, got the goals. And then was it the second half where Galton? I think Galton got the one after that again, and then it was a penalty, and that was Hansen getting fouled, and it was just unreal, honestly. The third goal was when Hansen crossed it in. She ran down the wing, bombed down the wing, and crossed it in, and then Leah was there at the back post to put it in. And yeah, them two, that game were just unplayable. And I think if you're watching that as, I don't know, a City, a Liverpool, not Liverpool, sorry, City and Arsenal, you'd be thinking that's the way you want to play with them, with two proper wingers. It was just unreal that day.
That's probably when we're at our best, when both Leah and Kirsty are at their best as well. Lost your picture. Well, not lost your picture, Dave. You've frozen again. So,
yeah.
Ian, what's your thoughts on that game?
Yeah, it was a comfortable game because I can't remember Brighton really troubling Mary Earps at all. Especially the first half. I can't remember anything from the first half that springs to mind. Mary was pretty much a spectator for the game against Brighton. I think Aileen Wood had a couple of goes, but I don't think she got that close. But yeah, I was going to say, it was a game where when both flanks are on their fort, on their game, we are really dangerous. So yeah, it was probably our best performance of the season. It came after the 11-1 to Leicester, didn't it? So it could have easily been we strolled that one, and this is going to be fairly easy as well. But they put in a really professional performance following that, because they could have easily dropped a level after that. But no, I was going to say, I can't really remember Brighton making much of that game at all. It was fairly comfortable for the whole 90.
No, I was watching the highlights the other day, and there's very little from Brighton. Obviously, the difficulty then is you can become complacent, but as we're talking about Leah and Kirsty, the question for me comes up: what are we doing them the best we can with the players they're with, or when they're running down those wings, when they're putting those balls in, have we got the right players in the middle for them? Or do we need somebody else, a different type of player? Or are we absolutely fine with what we've got, Ian?
we don't have that, 15 to 20 goals a season striker, do we? If we're honest. Jess is being played out wide. Lauren tends to drop deep. We don't really have someone who just sits up top and is there to be in the 6-yard box for those crosses. Yeah, we can get girls in there eventually, but if we're on a brisk counter down the wing, there's not very often there is someone in the middle or a striker in the middle. There might be the other wing coming in from the other side, but someone through the middle is not that often. So I have a feeling there will be a striker coming in the summer, or if there is a summer, if there's a transfer window, who knows at the moment. But it doesn't feel. Jane doesn't seem to get that many minutes. She spent quite a bit of time on the bench, and when she has played, we've barely got the ball to her. And then when Jess plays, who played through the middle and played really well through the middle last season, she's out on the right, and she's not in the position to put the ball in because she's the one putting the ball in the box, and there's nobody there. So we are very reliant on those two, on Kirsty and on Leah, but we do need to help them by having someone to be at the end there for their balls into the box. Otherwise, they just either hold the ball up and the attack dies because we've lost all the pace.
Dave, do you think we've got the right kinds of players for Leah and Kirsty to play with?
I feel that when them two were on the top of their form, we were still testing Jane Ross out, and obviously she's a centre forward, but she's not up there. She holds the ball up, stuff like that. So I think if them two were fit all season, I think they'd have played Jess in the middle more, but because the injury Hansen got and Jess went on the right, and I think she's been just unlucky really, because I think she's done well out there, as we'll talk about in the about the next game, but she's just been unfortunate. Imagine that game we've just won 4-0, them two are on fire. If you had Jess right at the top of that, like diamond in a way, I think the balls will be coming into her, and she's instinctive where she can put them away, but she's just not had that opportunity this season. When she has had that opportunity, them players haven't really been, they've not either been fully fit or they've not played.
Fiona agrees with you. Jane drops too deep, almost like a Mark Hughes kind of player, comes deep for the ball. She's not as quick as Kirsty and Leah to get on the end of their crosses. And Shay, we need a striker who just stays up top.
I mean, we could have that with Jess, but you'd have to play Jane and Jess at the same time, which is for me fine. But the big problem you got then is you're dropping LJ, which you can't really drop her at the moment. It's a bit of an awkward one. Ideally, you want someone who can get the ball deep and also goes forward.
Yeah.
So you can accommodate them both, but that's not really been tested though. The Jane Ross and Jess up front, because when they have played together, one's been on the wing.
Yeah. Jess has got the pace, though, so she could always come deep for the ball, give it out, and then get moving. Jake goes through a whole message, Dave, without mentioning somebody. Jess simply has to be played down the middle. No need to put her on the right with our two brilliant wingers. Lizzie can come on if one gets injured as well.
Well, I don't agree with that, because when they were injured, Lizzie didn't play that much, so that tells you what the manager thinks.
Don't upset Jake now. Come on.
No. I mean, I'd have played Lizzie. If we need a winger, you put a winger on, but it didn't seem to happen, did it? Really?
No. And the games that she did play in, she did a job.
Yeah.
She didn't.
I do think she's not at the level of Galton Hansen, but when you need someone, I mean, I'd personally play, but what do I know? I'm not the manager.
We can all be football managers, Dave, right now. Nat saying, change of formation. 4-4-2.
That's fine, but where once again, where does Lauren fit into that 4-4-2? If you're going to
have... Give us your 4-4-2. Dave, bit of love from Jake. He's saying you should be the manager.
No, I'm good, cheers.
Dave for manager. Let's get that hashtag trending.
Thank you.
So we'd had, at that point, we'd had two relatively, I won't say comfortable actually, we'd had two relatively comfortable results, perhaps not games, against Brighton. We then came to, it was the Conti Cup, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The final. Nat's getting a lot of love for her 4-4-2 suggestion, actually. A 2-1 win that, the thing that sticks out in my mind more than anything is the refereeing towards the end. So, Ian, you can start. What was going on with the ref in that game?
Ooh.
No fence sitting now. Come on.
It wasn't a brilliant performance, was it? If we're honest. Games being
Just say
stopped.
one thing quickly.
Yeah, go on.
I'll just want to say there was 2 penalties given in that game for Brighton. For me, I think they were both penalties, so I can't. It's the other decisions for me. Okay.
We'll come back to those. Ian, he's bailed you out there.
He had. Do you know what, that game isn't one that springs to mind when it comes to dodgy refereeing decisions all season, if I'm honest.
Okay.
It was one of those games where everybody had their opinion on something, but
penalty enough, Ian.
From where I was standing, I would have to have said yes. But I would have given both from my position in the stand. So, but the thing is, that we've been like that. We have given away some really stupid penalties. This and last season. Exclude the one obviously against Reading, because we all know that was just...
That was the most blatant penalty I've ever seen. What are you on about?
But most of the penalties we have given away have been stupidly rash decisions. And unfortunately, most of them have been by Amy.
Well, she did. The first penalty she did, once again, she loves giving a penalty away against Brighton. Second time. But obviously, thankfully, they didn't score that.
Ian, we'll come back and talk about the match. Nat's not agreeing with you. I have to tell you, Ian. I'm not going to put the message up. We are pre-Watershed, so that's probably why. But I think Nat is of the mind that if there's a penalty given against United, it's wrong. And if there's ever a if there's a potential for United to get a penalty, it should be. So I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Sorry, Ian, go on.
No, I was going to say, I know another person that's very much like that.
Yeah, who was meant to join us this evening, but I think has got Wi-Fi issues. So maybe that's a safe bet. Dave.
I'll be losing hopes here.
Dave, let's talk about the refereeing decisions, then we'll talk about the game as such. You say both of them were penalties?
I think so. I think Amy T dived in, didn't need to give away a penalty. Obviously, that was saved. And then, what was the last one? Hayley Ladd.
Hayley Ladd.
Like on the corner of the box, and she dived in. She didn't need to. She wasn't going to shoot from there. It was just a bad decision, and she did catch her, and it was a penalty. But they scored that one. But luckily, that's the only goal they got that game, because could have gone differently if they scored both of them. Again,
from a seemingly comfortable position, we've put ourselves in trouble against Brighton.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great game, really. I thought, not end to end, but competitive, really. And obviously, we saw McManus get her first goal, which was great to see.
Nat says Amy T always the ref was arrogant.
It was a penalty.
It was a penalty. Both of them were penalties. Sorry.
I hate agreeing with Ian, but it was a penalty.
Not very often.
Amy and Ian are agreeing. History in the making right now.
Well,
sorry,
as for the game, it was McManus got the first goal for us, and great to see her get a goal. And then it was, I think we had another chance after that. We hit the crossbar. I think, was it Siggy or was it Siggy? I think hit the headed against crossbar.
That's ringing a bell. Can't remember the play.
So, I mean, we had a chance there to go 2-0 up. And the penalty with Amy T that was missed. I've made some notes of it. Yeah, then that was a great goal. Our second one was Siggy on the right, crossed it in for Jane Ross to put it away. And yeah, it was a good goal. Probably it was the best goal she scored. It was because it was clear and obvious that she scored it. So it was
definitely not an own goal.
No, definitely not. But yeah, it was just well worked between Jess and just crossed in, and Jane put it away, and then obviously the penalty they got after that would make it 2-1. But yeah, very competitive game.
Sorry, Jake disagrees with you. He thinks Hayley got a touch on the ball. Anyway,
she dived in, and it was just there was no need to dive in. I think it was a penalty. It doesn't matter. We won the game.
Okay, just Ian, your thoughts on the actual game?
It wasn't a great game, if we're honest. Yeah, okay. Started off, when Abby gets that goal, what was it, about 15 minutes in? It was early-ish in the first half. You think, good, something to work off, because we hadn't been too bad in that first 15 minutes. But then we didn't really create a lot. Yeah, I think Dave's right, but I think Jess hit the crossbar in the first half. As well. And obviously, we then go in at halftime 1-0 up. Obviously, the two penalties, luckily one hit that, they missed one by hitting the bar. Jane Ross's second goal, that settled my nerves. Yeah. Because I was, at the time I was thinking, it's only one. We've had these habits of only scoring one and then letting it slip. In the past, so I was going to. We needed that safety net. So and it was a typical Jane Ross goal. It's something we know she can score. When she gets into the box and you deliver a ball like that she was delivered by Jess, she will put most of those away. But conceding that penalty with about 10 minutes left,
it made the game really, really dicey.
It did. And it's January. It's a cold January evening at the LSV, and it's not what nobody wants extra time, or penalties. So it was a bit. We take
extra time, penalties, golden goal, silver goal. We take going down to 10 for half an hour, 11. We take anything.
We would take anything right now, but at the time, it was a case of we need to try and see this out. And Brighton did have a couple, Brighton did have a real good go in that last 10 minutes. We came back to we're sitting back and you need to break us down.
I was going to say, we sat back though. We almost invited that pressure onto us.
No, you did. And that's the thing we've been guilty of, quite a few times. We were like that against Arsenal as well. We were playing quite, until about the 65th, 70th minute, we've been playing quite well. But then we just started sitting back and back and back and back and back, and we just invited pressure on. So it didn't surprise me when we did eventually concede. So it's something we have been guilty of, that we need to close the game out, and sitting back isn't our best tactic, if I'm brutally honest.
Are we sitting back sometimes because of physical fitness, do you think? Do you think maybe our fitness levels aren't there, Ian?
I think we are behind some of the WSL teams in fitness. Our girls have only been in a full-time fitness program for 1.5 seasons. Some of the Arsenal team have been in that team for 5-6 years and have been in a fairly good physical fitness program. Yes, okay, the league only went fully professional a few years, 2 years ago, but some of those girls were pretty much professional beforehand anyway.
Right. So is that an excuse? Is that an explanation? Is it because there's a physical issue, or is it just a style that we're not great under pressure, and our immediate response is to go sit back and just soak up the pressure? Because then we haven't really got the players to hit somebody on the break necessarily. If, as we're saying, Jane Ross is just going to sit there and play the ball off, but then not get down the middle.
you've got to remember Casey is obviously a central defender herself, so she probably is a little more defensive minded than.
Jake says the same point here. I think sitting back comes partially from Casey. I see her as a very defensive-minded manager. Makes sense, having been a defender herself. Absolutely, we'd all expect her to play.
One thing Casey's always said. One thing Casey's always said is a strong defence. If we can keep it solid at the back, allows us then to go forward. She's always been someone about building solidness at the back. So it just screams that if we can see solid at the back, we can then try and get forward. The problem is though, when we get into those situations, we can't get out. There's nobody to hold the ball up to allow us to move forward and counter quickly, because everybody's ended up being in a line in the 6.
Yeah.
On the edge of the box, and there's literally, as you said, Jen on her own to play someone off to, but she's got no one to play it off to.
So, is Jane Ross the type of player that works in our team, Ian? No fence sitting.
If we are playing a team like a Bristol City or a lower-ish team, when we are more of an attacking threat, she probably works better then, because there are people for her to play the ball to, and then get on and move up the field. Whereas, like an Arsenal, the person you probably want up top collecting the ball is probably a Jess, more strength, can hold the ball up better, gets time to people to come up to her. Whereas Jane, she's not the strongest in the world, so she's easily not jostled off the ball, and then we're back into the ball's coming back at us again. Whereas someone like a Jess in that situation will be able to hold the ball up, wait for someone to come up to her and play the ball, and you never know. But the thing is, though, Jess never seems to be on the pitch at that time. She's always either still on the bench or she's been substituted off. She doesn't seem to be on the pitch at that type of time when you kind of need her.
Dave, what do you make about this in terms of playing to strengths, who we've got? And the second goal in particular, Fiona's said that we need to play more like we did for the Ross goal, a quick attack. But Ross hadn't dropped deep, so she was still up there and could score.
For me, I don't think, from what I've seen of her this season, I don't think she is that, that edge of offside, being up there all the time. Just drop back a bit, and I do think that she's not set up for us, really. That's just my opinion. Maybe it would work if we didn't have Lauren, which obviously we do want. You could play her in that where Lauren plays, and then have Jess up front, like I said earlier. But you're not going to drop Lauren for her.
No.
And I just don't think she's that point at the top of the team. I just think she just comes back too much, and then you're looking to where to pass it to, and she should be the one you're passing it to. Season with us, it started off a bit rocky. It could have been all different, if she scored that goal against City at the start. The confidence might have been right up there. But I'd stick with it another year. I wouldn't get rid of her, kind of thing. I'd just see what she can do. If we did get another striker in, she might think, right, no, I'm not having this. I want to be that striker, and it might be a bit of competition.
Sorry, Dave, go on.
But I'm just saying, from what I saw this season, no, she's not that. She's not a number 9 for me.
I remember during the World Cup, Casey was doing some of the coverage for BBC, and before one of Scotland's games, I think this was at a time when I'm not sure if it had been announced or not that she was coming to us, but Casey was going through the Scottish team, and she got to Jane Ross, and she said she's the kind of player, she's great holding the ball up and then playing it off. That's her strength. She's great at it. And I remember we were watching it. Mark might bear me out on this one. And we looked at each other and said, well, there's Casey's game plan. That's what she's going to use it for. She doesn't want the pacey number 9 that's going through the middle. She wants someone that's almost playing with her back to goal. So bearing that in mind, has she done the job when she's been on the pitch that she was brought in to do? Before you answer that, I'm just, Dave, Jake, even I admit she's dropped in quality from last season. At times last season, I know, at times last season, we're getting it all tonight. Dave and Ian have agreed. Jake's conceded on Jane. At times last season, she was quick chasing down defenders, putting pressure on, but we've not seen that much at United. Dave?
Well, you got to say no, because she's been played as a number 9. She's been there. She's been played as a striker to get goals. And bringing it back to the World Cup, the game we went to in against Scotland, the substitutions that were made. Arnott came on. He was a winger. Smith came on. He was a right back. They didn't bring Jane Ross on when they needed goals. They were 2-0 down, and we needed goals. Well, they needed goals, sorry, and they didn't bring her on. And I remember at the time there was high rumours that we were signing her. It was like 80% nailed on. I remember thinking at the time, they need goals and not bringing her on. Is that what we really need at United? And for me, I think everyone just wants someone who's putting 15 to 20 goals a season away. And maybe Jess can do that, but she's not had the opportunity this season, I don't think.
Okay. Jake says there's one thing that Jane Ross needs. Do you want to know what it is?
A strike partner.
To wear the captain's armband.
Captain's armband.
Ian, any thoughts on Jane Ross before we move on? You can say yes or no. That's a definite answer. I don't mind if you want to be a definite.
I can see what I can see why she was bought, because obviously that was one of the very few signings we've actually paid for. Most of the others have been free transfers at end of contracts. So yeah, I can see why she was bought, but unfortunately, I don't think the way we play kind of fits in with the way she does.
So why did you buy her? Just to pick up on your point, if you can see why she was bought, but then we've not played.
But I don't think I can see why Casey wants someone to hold the ball up and pass it off. But the thing is, though, we don't really play like that a lot of the times. We're quite a few. There's lots of direct balls from the back or from central midfields out wide. We tend to not go through the middle that often. And if we do, it's someone like Lauren who picks it up and drives forward with the ball rather than playing it off. Funny enough, I just actually checked the match report from that game against Brighton in the Community Cup. As soon as we gave that goal away, we took Jess off and brought Lotta on. So that was probably Casey trying to then shore it up even more. Whereas that's probably not. I probably wouldn't have taken Jess off. I've probably taken Jane off and kept Jess up top. But
Fiona made the point some way back. I can't find the comment that Jess doesn't always seem to complete 90 minutes. So maybe that's also one of the reasons why Jess came off. So at that point, we've had 3 games against Brighton, and we've had three wins. So in terms of a team that we feel confident against, that we feel comfortable, that we think we match up well against them, absolutely fine. And then we play them away this season. Gentlemen, you had the joy. I unfortunately couldn't get away from work. Had it been the following week and half term, I'd have been there. But for those who didn't go, some of us watched it on TV, started brilliantly, and then it all seemed to change. Ian, what are your thoughts on that one?
As you said, we score in the first minute. We score straight from the kickoff. Like we did against Birmingham. And when that goes in, you think, here we go. Nice early start. Let's on this. We've got a chance here to have a good night and fill your boots type thing. It was, it was a really good start. But then we just didn't do anything. I can't really remember many other chances that we created in the 90 minutes. The weather was horrible, but it's no excuse. It was just a really poor performance. It wasn't like the team had been massively changed. I think it was a really strong side, but Brighton were really solid. After that, we didn't get a lot, as many chances created after that, and then we conceded bang on half time. Do you know what? Because I would have thought conceding on half time would have spurred them on in the second half. Casey would have probably put the right rocket up them at half time. But again, coming into the second half, if any team looked like scoring, it was Brighton. It wasn't a good performance at all. And Casey only made 2 changes in that game. We didn't even use all 3. So it was just a really, really bad night. It really was. There's nothing really I can remember that was good in any way, unfortunately.
Come on, Ian. There was one positive. You didn't have a long journey home. Dave, your thoughts on that game?
You got to remember the game we played previously before that was the Reading game with the famous handball.
Yeah.
So maybe the spirits were down a little bit because of that. But for me, I thought it was an opportunity to bounce back. But like I said earlier, when we beat them 4-0 and we saw the best of us because we had Leah at our best and Kirsty at the best, we didn't have either of them that night, and it really showed. The start was brilliant, straight from kickoff. Lauren goes down the left. I don't know if she does shoot. I think it might be a bit of a cross, but anyway, it hits the crossbar, hits the keeper, and goes in. Unbelievable start, and like Ian said, you're just thinking, right, there we go, goals tonight, because it was a bit of a pain in the backside, really. Midweek, late kickoff. We have to get the train down there. Everyone has to spend the night in a hotel because the train don't run back. It's the furthest away ground, and you just think, did they do that on purpose, the FA or what? But anyway, so you gutted because the performance just wasn't there, and it was probably the most effort we've made to get there that season to a game, and it was just very disappointing. And before their goal came, I could just feel it. It was they were going to score, and I felt that they were going to run away with it. We're lucky, really, that it was only a draw, and it was just everything about their goal as well. It was just a crossed-in, simple header, bad defending, and I think it just showed us what the team were like that day. Just they weren't up for it. I wouldn't say they weren't up for it. They just weren't good enough that day. And second half was just
the performance was flat, the team was flat. Everything about
everything. It was just. I don't know what it was. It was just everything about it was just dreadful. It's the worst I've seen us play completely out the 2 seasons, and it was just massively disappointing. It was you're watching the game, and we were behind the goal, and so you're watching it basically as you would from the keeper's point of view, so you can see the width and stuff like that, and he just didn't look interested, and you can see the position. They were out of position. They were doing this, and we were, like I said, we're lucky it was only a draw. It could have. I still feel that they should have won Brighton. They'll be kicking themselves they didn't win because we were dreadful.
One of the questions I'd written down, your picture's just frozen again, Dave, so I'll read this out. One of the questions I'd written down was, were we lucky to actually get a point? And Jake's made the comment, I hate to be critical because a midweek away game is never easy, but it was just so scrappy, so slow. It's as if we were playing for a draw, which we were lucky to get. And bearing in mind...
I do think that we were playing for a draw because once they got the goal back, there's no interest really. Well, there might have been interest, but there's no way we were ever getting a goal because we just weren't good enough. So the best opportunity we could get was playing for that draw. And we did do that because we stopped them from scoring. But like I say, Brighton will be kicking themselves.
Too early? Do you think we scored too early, though?
I never think you can score too early because...
I know it's a crazy question, but had we settled into the game, maybe, could there have been a different result?
I don't think so. I just think that was... It was a bit of a lucky goal, like I say. It hit the crossbar, came off the keeper and went in. But the moment after that, the whole team was down. But even if we didn't score that, I think it would have been the same situation where we'd have been flat and then we'd have lost 1-0. We're just lucky, really, that we'd have got that early goal.
Ian, talk to me about the team formation, because I know when I saw it on the FA Player, but then I was watching the highlights, I think later on, after the game, on MUTV, and they had those down as playing a 4-2-2-2, which is a formation I've never seen before. And we've heard people suggest some bizarre formations. But a 4-2-2-2, did they play it? And if so, what was going on?
We were really, really narrow that night. We really were. So, as Dave said, we didn't have Leah, we didn't have Kirsty. They were both out at the time. It was Lads, Zedham, Gronin and Toon was technically the middle four with Ross and James up front, but it turned out that James was more on the left and Toon on the right. Ella's not a winger.
Fiona makes good points. She says Toon, Ross, James for our attack, don't they all prefer to play centrally? Yeah.
I've got the team here if you want me to read it out.
We were basically playing people on the wing, or supposedly on the wing, that don't play on the wing. So we were narrow. A 4-2-2-2 probably is about right, if I'm honest, the way they played. That's probably MUTV thinking, if you asked them for the formation before the game, it wouldn't have been 4-2-2-2 at
right.
all.
Because that's not what I saw when I watched
something they've done.
Yeah.
That's something they've said. That is pretty much how they play. So that's how we'll put them on, line them up on the old graphics when we share the highlights the next day. Because, you had Ladd and Zellum doing their normal bit in front of the back four. And obviously Jackie was going to be just ahead of them. And then you obviously had Toon and James. And then obviously on the top on her own really was Jane. But Toon and James didn't really get forward on the wings. They both came centrally as well. Yeah. So it was a very narrow performance. Yeah. So that 4-2-2 is probably accurate. Dave, you said you got the team there.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at the bench as well, let me get it, sorry. One of my biggest pet peeves was bringing Amy Palmer back from Sheffield, who was doing brilliantly, and then not playing her. And I think in a game like this, she'd have been something different. But Lotta was on the bench, which she is. Jess was on the bench, Lizzie and Rebecca May. So it wasn't the strongest bench, but maybe I would have played Arnott for a bit of width and Jess. But it was Martha, Amy T, Toon, Zellum, Ladd, Jackie, Lauren, Jane, Kirsty Smith, and Millie Turner. It doesn't, for me, if you look at that, you're not thinking, there's just no width to it, is there? And I don't think it was that 4-2-2-2. I just think the players who were supposed to go on the wings just naturally came inside because that's what they're used to doing, like the Ellas and the Laurens. So, but forget the formation. It was just they just couldn't play football that day. The passing, everything about it was just woeful. And I just think it was one of them off days, and you are allowed to have them. Well, you don't like to admit it, but you are allowed to have an off day, and it just happened that the whole team had an off day that day.
Because in most matches, you'll find it's rare that all 11 play well. You'll always have a couple of players who dip in and out of games, but that was one of those games where nobody seemed to play well.
No, so
they do.
I mean, apart from the goal, you can't think of anything positive really that they did that day.
Jake, The sad truth is our threat comes from the wings. We saw it that night, and when Bristol beat us by focusing on our wingers, too predictable sometimes. Nat, got no wingers, and Lizzie can't get a game. Yeah, maybe Lizzie needed to be thrown on at that point. John just says, a bad day at the office, much like you said, Dave. So it stands as probably one of the poorest performances we've had, not just this season, but probably since we've been around as a team. So the last two seasons, season and a half, really, isn't it? And in terms of the timing, we were struggling to get momentum. We'd just come off, like you say, the Reading game, which would have been an absolute shocker. They deserved the 3 points, maybe from that one. Maybe the performance wasn't so great, but in terms of the decisions and the situation, Dave says, "Oh, you're back." So confidence was at a loss then. Whatever happens the rest of the season, I still think it's a bonus for us that if the season ends now, if there is no more football, how positive for us that we end after that Everton game. Because had it ended after the Brighton game, even after the Reading game, which were only a matter of days before, then I think morale might have been a bit affected. Maybe I'm reading into it as well.
I do think, though, however bad that game was, and like I say, it's the worst performance I've seen us play completely, we still managed to get out there with a point, which is unbelievable, really. So that's a positive you can take. Even on our worst day, we still managed to get a point.
You know, that's a great point, literally, because maybe our standards and our expectations are so high that knowing what had gone before with the results against Brighton and knowing what we're capable of, that just almost wasn't acceptable. But yeah, we still we didn't lose. When all said and done, we didn't lose.
It's funny because coming away from the ground and then going back to the hotel, I was convinced, even though I knew it was a 1-1, and I was convinced we lost that game just because of the way it felt.
Did you find that as well with the Reading game? There's some games they don't feel like the result they are.
Yeah, definitely.
In much the same way that had we got a last minute equaliser, or had we pushed for something, we'd have felt it was almost like a win. You get those games. You get those. I know the 1-0 loss against Arsenal at the beginning of the season. I know some people have said that felt like a much bigger loss because it was so emotionally tough because we were hanging on, and a point would have been great, and to lose it in the last minute. So sometimes the result feels different from what it is.
But we don't have that player like you say Arsenal there, where they brought Van der Donk on, off the bench,
She's a game changer.
One of the best players in the league, and she ends up scoring the goal. We don't, at the moment in time, we don't have that, and I don't expect us to have that because we're not 2 years old yet. We're not.
We're not 2 years old, and
we're still feeling things out and finding out what it's all about. So, yeah, the Arsenal at the time was disappointed, but you understand that we're just not there yet. Whereas with Bristol and Brighton, I thought we're at their level and we should have beaten them.
Yeah, and certainly history that had gone before it suggested we should have done. We're coming up to an hour, so we'll try and tie this up. Ian, final thoughts? Anything you wanted to add on any of the Brighton games? Anything that stands out?
I just agree with Dave. That Brighton game back in February at the People's Pension was a game we could have easily lost. I think they had a chance in the last 5 or 10 minutes. They had a really good chance, and it just went over. The ball fell really nicely just outside the 6-yard box in front of us, and I thought, this is trouble, and somehow it didn't go in. And if it had gone in and we lost, we probably deserved. We deserved to be beaten that night. We were. That was a point I'll take, because that was a point, more than we could have ended up with. Whereas Reading, 2 weekends prior to that, was a game of that's 2 points dropped because of some stupid referee.
And there apparently are some really poor referees, Ian. Not sure if you know about
I
that.
heard some good ones, but I can't believe it.
I've said this before. I said it. I'll say it again. Referees that are in the levels that they are, who can only referee in, in National League North and South, which is the highest they're allowed to referee in the men's game, have no right to be officiating in a professional league for the women. No right.
You heard it here. Our own ref. It was a decision. Dave, anything you want to add about the Brighton games?
All in all, we're looking at this as a bit of a downer because of the last game, but I thought with the 3 previous games, we did brilliantly, especially the 4-0. Like I say, I think that's probably our best performance of the season. We just totally dominated them, and every player was on form, whereas it's like the complete opposite. Yeah, I'm happy with the 4 games we've played. If we can get 3 wins, 3 out of the 4, they'd taken that beforehand. So yeah, all in all, happy with it. And I must say, out of all the away places to go, probably some of the nicest staff you'll come across as well at Crawley.
Yeah, I remember from last season, it was quite an enjoyable trip. So Ian, somebody likes Crawley.
No, I never said that.
Really? Hang on. I live in the town. You can't like it.
Anyway, 4 games unbeaten. Suppose we can't really argue too much about that one. Thank you both very much for joining me this evening. Next week, also, I will just say the usual. If you enjoyed, like, share, subscribe. Next week, we've got a bit of a treat coming up. I know Mark's been planning some things, so I'm not entirely sure who he's got lined up. I might be back. I'm not sure. You back, Dave?
Yeah, I'm back.
I might be back. I don't know. But he's got a plan to, under the circumstances, let's have something that's going to lift us all up and we'll have a nice time. So that's next week. Thank you to everyone who's watched this evening, and also to remind you that during these difficult times, the Barmy Army are here for you. If you ever need to have a chat with anybody, if you just want to have a vent, send us a DM on Twitter. One of us will get back to you. But don't be alone. Don't hold stuff. Share it. We've also got the Sunday socials if anybody wants, and we will definitely be back next week. Mark won't let us forget it. Ian, thank you very much for joining us from deepest, darkest Crawley. Dave, been an absolute pleasure as usual, and thank you everybody who has joined us, and we'll see you all next week. Thanks very much.